Okay, today, guys, real quick. Oh, fourth out. Where's Alex? So, guys, hopefully you watched the video with the sub last week on Medicare for All and on TikTok. Okay, so if you think the U.S. government should outlaw it in this country because the Chinese are gathering data, can they use that data today? Maybe. Could they use it later or just hold on to it? Let's say one of you guys decides to run for political office one day, and TikTok has all your information from when you were a teenager. Could they use that to blackmail you? Okay, this is where privacy rights come in. Okay, and you got to decide which apps you're going to let follow you and what they do. So if you ever read the user agreements, you need to be a lawyer pretty much to understand what the heck they say, but we give away a lot of our information, a lot of our privacy by hitting yes. Okay, accepting terms and conditions. Okay, so that's something, kind of pay attention to. The Medicare for All, I may have a little bit of time at the end. If you guys have some questions about that, I can maybe answer any questions you may have. But today we're going to move on to privatizing Social Security. Now, as I look around the room, everybody in here last semester had history. So I got into Social Security pretty deep with you guys. You remember, there are three parts to Social Security, yes? Retirement, right? So you pay in 6.2%, that goes to retirement. Part 3, 6.2%, your employer pays a payroll tax, okay, of 6.2%, and that goes to fund unemployment insurance, which will last 26 weeks. If you lose your job, you get laid off. So those are both funded through Social Security taxes. So your employer has to match that, what you pay in. The second part of Social Security, or third part, would be disability, dependent children, public assistance. Okay, so Philip Eck is in my 0 hour. Philip lost his mom a few years ago. So every month, Philip gets a check from the Social Security Department, about $1,200. Okay? Now it's written to Philip, but his dad takes it and uses it to help raise him. Okay? He will receive that check up until he graduates or his 18th birthday. Okay? Now, this is funded not from these taxes, but from federal and state money. General revenue. It comes out of general revenue. It doesn't come from Social Security. Okay? When we talk about privatizing Social Security, guys, we're talking only about part 1, which is the retirement. And as I told you guys, your money was supposed to go into a Social Security fund. And it would stay there until you retired, and the government would cut you a check each month. So when you could no longer work, you would have income. And then in the 70s, I told you, the Congress saw all that money in the Social Security fund, and they said, we could use that for other stuff. And they raided it. So there is no Social Security fund. So right now, they're estimating by 2037, 14 years from now, Social Security will be what's called insolvent. There won't be enough money to cut the checks for the people that are supposed to be receiving them. Okay? So some people have said, why don't we fix it and privatize it? And that's what this would look like. Okay? Now, Mr. Ebright makes about the average income of the average American. Somewhere in the realm of around $50,000 a year. Not a month. A year. Okay? So if you look at what comes out of my check each month for Social Security, my 6.2%, every 2 weeks I get paid, and about $150 comes out of my check for Social Security. So each month, Mr. Ebride is paying in about $300 to Social Security. I'm the average guy, the average Joe, okay? Now, the average Jane, grandmother in this country, gets a check for about $1,300 a month. Somebody that is on Social Security today. Now, first off, do you want to live off $1,300 a month when you're 65 or 67? No, you don't. So, Mr. Ebright, I'm going to, once I get a good job, I'm going to take money out of my check each month, and I'm going to create my own Roth IRA or IRA, individual retirement account, and I'm going to start saving in addition to Social Security, so I don't have to live off of fixed income. Right? Students? That's not going to be you. Okay? Right? Okay. So, how many average Joes like me does it take to pay for grandma's insurance today? A little over 4, right? Yes. Then I talked to you guys last semester about the baby boom. The baby boom generation between 1946 and 1965 is in full force starting to retire, which means there's more people retiring, living longer, which means the system's going to go bust. So you can do a couple different things. Now, here's full disclosure. You only pay 6.2% on the first $109,000 you make a year. This is not an issue for me. But if you make more than $109,000 a year, you only pay 6.2% on the first $109,000. Anything you make over that, you don't pay Social Security taxes on. Does that make sense? Any idea why they cap that or means test that? Because you'll never get that money back out. So you could raise this to $200,000 a year and make those people pay 6.2% on $200,000 a year, which would put more money in the pool, but they would never get it out. As you remember, if you'll recall, Social Security is not a welfare program. If you don't pay into Social Security, you don't get money out of Social Security. It's not welfare. It's basically government mandated savings because they can't trust us to save money on our own, which is true. More than half the population doesn't save anything, has no savings. Okay, some of that is through their own misguided budgeting. Some of that is because they can't afford it. Follow me? But if you make them pay, is that fair? Now they're paying for other people's Social Security. That is welfare. Follow me? We can turn it into a welfare program if you want. Wouldn't surprise me if they did it. Okay? My wife's Social Security check will be bigger than mine. She makes more money than I do. She pays up to that. Okay? Now, how do we fix this? So when 2037 happens, we could raise taxes, we could raise this, or we could cut the benefit. We're going to cut the benefit? No, because these are old people. You know who votes in this country? Old people and members of Congress want to get reelected. They're not going to touch that. We could do this. We already raised this retirement age from 65 to 67. We could raise it again. That would make it more solvent. Now, you guys can start taking Social Security at 62. Start getting your checks at 62. Okay? Remember, this doesn't mean you can't be working and getting Social Security. You can still be working and start taking it. You understand? It's your money. You put it in there. Actually, it's my money. Nobody has money in there. Whoever's working, it's their money, and it's going to you. Okay? Everybody with me? So, the idea here of privatizing works like this. Now, guys, we're going to have to raise taxes to start. So this is going to 7%. Okay? So what comes out of my check is now going to be $330. You with me? We can't cut grandma. So we're going to take this $30. Government's going to say to you, you can invest that $30 in your own private account. Can't touch it till you're 62, but you can invest it and put it to work for you. So it will grow. Is this $300 that I'm putting in this month going to grow any? No. It doesn't grow a penny. Okay? So I'm going to take that $30, okay? $30, sorry, times 12 months, times 5 years. We're going to do this in 5-year increments. Okay? So, at the end of 5 years, and I'm going to put my money in the stock market. So, get my calculator out here. 12 times 30 times 5 equals $1,800. Okay? So, year 1 through 5, I've accumulated, putting $30 away, $1,800 plus interest. Mine's in the stock market. So, I got $2,100. Now, if you start with this number 62, you're going to go back 5 years, 57. This is a 5-year period. Okay? You now have a nest egg of $2,100. Okay? So we tell grandma, that's now 62. Grandma, you save that money. You're going to cut this. $1,200. You're going to use that money to help supplement. Now, the next 5 years, you're going to be able to take $60. So we just cut $30 out of this $300. Now you got $270 going here. With me? So $60 over here. 60 times 12 times 5 equals 3,600 plus interest that I'm growing here. Okay, so years 6 through 10. Okay, what did I say? 36. Let's say we're up to $7,000. Huh? I'm adding 3,600 to that plus interest. All right. And so now I'm up to $7,000. So with you were 52 when this started, you now have $7,000. Okay? You're going to cut this to $10.50. Okay? In the next 5 years, I'm going to be able to stick away $90 a month for years 11 through 15. 90 times 12 times 5 equals $5,400 plus interest. Okay. So now let's say I'm up to $14,000 after 15 years. So I was 47 when this started. Now I have 14K. So I'm going to cut this again. Okay. We're going to drop this to $900. Next 5 years, years 16 through 20, I'm going to be able to stick away $120 a month into my own private account. $120 times 5 times 12, $7,200. Okay, I'm adding that plus interest. Now I'm getting interest on 14 grand, which is going to be a little bit better. 7,200. Okay, I'm up to $25,000 in my savings account. Okay. Now, if I was 42 when that started, I now have 25K. I'm going to cut this to $750 a month. We're going to be able to put $150. Year 21 through 25, $150 times 12 times 5, 9 grand plus interest. Okay, I'm up to 38K. I was 37 when this started. Now I have 38K. Okay. Next time around, we're cutting this to $500. This is going to $200. 200 times 12 times 5, 12 grand plus interest. But 60,000, year 26 through 30. I was 32 when that started. I got 60 grand. By year 35, you do it right, you could start putting all $330 in your own account. By the time you retire, if you start at 20, you'll have more than $1 million with compound interest over 40 years. Guys, if you stick away $3,600 a year and invest it every year for 20 years, starting at the age of 20, and then you stop at 40, you'll have $1 million. Now, we don't use Chile, the country, Chile, for much when we talk about things. But under the dictator known as Pinochet, they did this. And it worked very well. You can look it up. Yeah.
Privatizing this so the government wouldn't over the.
Not after it completely switches.
So then how would that?
All they have is you have to take 7% of your check and invest it.
How would the company controlling this?
So you start, you're going to be hiring a whole bunch of financial advisors that are going to help people with it. Now, the younger you are, the more risk you can assume because you have decades to overcome that risk. So when you're young, this money's going to the stock market. You're stupid if you don't. As you get older, as you get to your 50s, you start to say, okay, I've got a nice nest egg built up. I want to make sure I don't lose it. So you start moving into safer investments like bonds, money markets, CDs, these sorts of things. Okay? Guys, it's risky. Here's the risk. What happens if the stock market crashes? Well, we all go to the poorhouse together. And the government prints a bunch of money and bails us out. Now, if the stock market crashes when you're 37, you got all that money in there, all those stocks you own. Guess what? You're going to keep buying. And when it comes back, you're going to make even more money because you're buying when it's low. When you get to this age, you're gonna be like, I need to get out of the stock market. I need to move my money into safer securities. Okay. Now, guys, George W. Bush ran for president in the year 2000 talking about this. Now, what the Democrats did was they tried to scare grandma. In fact, Democrats ran a TV commercial, cartoon, of George W. Bush pushing an old lady in a wheelchair off a cliff, saying he was going to take away their Social Security. Republicans controlled both houses of Congress in 2000 when Bush was elected. And he said, hey, we got a chance to do this and fix it. And they're like, no. Because they knew what would happen. The Democrats would scare them, scare the old people. They'd lose their jobs. Now, it took me 20 minutes to give you a decent explanation of it. What's the average person's span of attention?
9 seconds.
Nobody's going to listen to this. Nobody's going to sit through this. Nobody's going to tune into Mr. Ebright's YouTube channel and learn about this. They call Social Security the third rail of politics. Have I told you this before? Railroad tracks, subway tracks in New York City. Don't touch the third rail, you'll fry. Try and change Social Security, your political career will fry. Okay? You guys think this is a good idea? Stock market, guys. Look at it. It's over there. Look at the graph. You get 6% return on your money, which traditionally you're going to get between 10 and 12% on your money over time. Are you making some money? Do you own some stock? Fictitious? Huh? All right, so guys, if you think this is a good idea, worth exploring, where we convert into basically the government is mandating that you save 7% of your money. What you do with it is up to you. Think about the amount of capital investment this would provide for businesses in this country. The United States is generally a safe bet. Now, I don't like all these people, but if you think about people like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and other entrepreneurs in this country, okay, Steve Jobs, Alexander Graham Bell, these folks, you know, we're a pretty safe bet. You guys would be retiring wealthy. The average Joe like me would be retiring wealthy. And you could also pass it on to your kids. Unlike Social Security. Okay? So, if you think it's worth a look, you think, hey, I think that might be a good idea. Can we start today? Can you opt out of Social Security? Can you opt out of paying this 6.2%? No. You can't opt out. If you were to ask me at 18 years old if I knew what I knew today, and you said, all right, you get your first job, you got to decide whether you're going to pay into Social Security or not. If you don't pay in, when you turn 65, you can't ask the government for help. If I knew what I knew today, I would say, no way, man, I'm keeping my $300. And I'm going to put it to work for me. It's $3,600 a year. I'm locked in. But if young people like yourself would educate yourself on stuff like this, you might see it. Or we could just stay with the same broken system and put Band-Aids on it when it needs Band-Aids. Yeah.
So would they take like a commission off of it?
You might have some of that. Like Edward Jones does now. But people have jobs and making a living. You could do it for a living.
Only options.
Yeah. All right. Privatize Social Security. You decide. Okay. Jackson. Any idea how much it costs to educate one student in the state of Kansas for 1 year? So one student over at Northwest High School. How much it costs to educate that one student for 1 year? State of Kansas. Yes? 12,000 we got over here. Any more? How much? 40,000? Per child per year. Looked it up this morning. $16,200 per child. Now, we're in a private school, parochial school, religious school. You don't use that. Your parents pay the taxes for it, but you don't use it. Okay? I went to public schools, so the taxes paid for me to go to school. Okay? Now, if you were to pay full tuition at Bishop Carroll Catholic High School, any idea how much that would cost? You think it's more? Kidding me? You know how much I make? I kind of just told you. If I was working in the public schools right now, I'd be making at least $15,000 more, if not 20. My son's girlfriend's the assistant cheerleading coach at East High. She makes almost as much as I do as the head baseball coach here. I was the department chair, ran the weight room, and was a head coach, and have a master's degree, 25 years of experience. I'd be raking it in. But then I wouldn't be able to be with you guys. And that would stink. Jack! Good job. Jack! You win a prize. So, some would say that we do more with less. A lot less. Bunch of Catholics.
They would do less.
Or you could say that. We do less with less. Depending on how you view your education at this institution or over the last 12 years. How are we doing? Are we doing okay? Leland, are you happy with your education? You feel like you're prepared for college? You know? Now, can you take AutoCAD at Bishop Carroll?
You can.
We don't have AutoCAD here. They don't have AutoCAD, do they?
Not
AutoCAD.
computerized business, but the next class, they work with CAD.
Okay, but the system is expensive. We don't have it. Okay, public schools have things that we may not have. Like Mrs. Fox sends her kids down to Mulvane, and they have a lot more access to some classes that we don't offer. Okay. Now we've gotten better with the AP classes. We used to not have near as many AP classes. Understand? You could just do the college credit, right? So we're catching up, but anyhow. So here's the thing, guys. Some school districts are better than others, yes? What's the number one determinant on test scores for a school? What has the biggest impact on scores more than any other statistic? The socioeconomic status of the people that go to that school district. The higher the socioeconomic status, the higher the scores. That's the number one factor. But here's the thing, guys. Children, school children, do not get to choose their zip code. So you are subject in the state of Kansas to your zip code. You live in that zip code, you go to that school. Should your quality of education be based on your zip code in this country? Is that fair to kids? No. So how about this? We cut a voucher to every kid in Kansas, their parents, a voucher for $16,000 that can only be used for education. And they choose which school they want to go to. What about the private schools? So in Kansas, to go universal vouchers, where every school-age child in the state, including you, and all the kids at St. Francis, St. Thomas Aquinas, all the kids at St. James Academy, St. Thomas More Prep, Independent School, Trinity Catholic, Collegiate, all of those kids and their parents get a voucher too. That would cost hundreds of millions of dollars for the state of Kansas, and you would have to raise taxes. A lot. We save the state of Kansas hundreds of millions of dollars a year. And what thanks do we get? We're going to get a multiplier system for athletics because we recruit, and you guys, we're going to 6A. Because we win too much. Now, do we recruit? I just told you I'm a head coach, right? I'm still waiting for that 90-mile-an-hour fastball to walk in the door after 24 years. At Capen? Got some new coaches in there, don't they? One's notorious for doing it in the public schools. Guys, South High women's basketball, go back about 5 years ago, they won 3 state championships in a row. Somehow it wound up that every girl that was good in basketball in the city wound up at South High. Before that, it was Heights women's basketball. Really good at recruiting. Northwest football did it just the other year. They got the Andover Central quarterback and linebacker to go to Northwest. Remember that? And then you're like a sophomore, freshman. Yeah. Dude, I haven't seen that guy transfer in. I had a kid transfer from Northwest to Carroll about 12 years ago. Kind of a big deal. Like, dude, Carroll's recruiting this kid from Northwest. He wasn't that good. He's a good player, nice kid. He's a chiropractor now, great family. Yeah. But he wasn't a difference maker. So, let's say this happens. Jennifer Aniston, you guys know who that is? She says, you know what, I'm done acting. I'm going to go teach drama at Northwest High School. We got any kids in here that do drama, like plays and stuff? Jennifer Aniston's going to come teach. Yeah. So, Andrew, Tony Rosales or Jennifer Aniston? I don't know about you, Kennedy. I know what he's doing. In fact, I'm gonna switch what I teach. I'm gonna start teaching drama, and I'm gonna be the assistant over there. Because I want to hang out with Jennifer Aniston. Right? Now, would there be anything wrong with students like Kennedy saying, I want to go learn from somebody that's done it at a high level? So you transfer there. We do that in college. You pick schools that have certain degrees or ones that they're known for. You're like, I'm going to go there because they're really good at that. That creates competition between schools. So when you're thinking about college, you think about what this school has to offer me. Well, what about high schools? What do they have to offer me? Some of you guys know the direction you want to go in life, what you want to study. This school has a really good engineering program in high school. I can get ahead. I'm going to go over there. School choice. Or this school's really good at the arts. Or the school's really good at athletics. Now, this is what Florida does. To do this in Kansas would cost a crap ton of money. But what Florida does for those kids that are in failing schools, if a school is failing, they go on probation. You got a plan of action. If you don't show adequate improvement over 2 years, they shut down that school and give every kid in that school a voucher to take to any other school, public, private, or religious. Now you're asking the question, this is government money, can you give that to a church? Well, guess what? This has been done and sued. The lawsuit took place, went all the way to Supreme Court. Supreme Court said this. This voucher money originates with the taxpayers. It goes to the government gives it to the family gives it to the church. It does not violate the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment that we talked about. So, let's say they shut down South High. 1,400 students. All got to find a new school. Let's say 200 of them show up at our doorstep and say, we want to go to Bishop Carroll High School. Some of them are Catholic, some of them aren't, but all of them have a check for $16,000. That's something like $3.2 million. Could we use $3.2 million? Could we finish those classrooms that have been sitting empty for more than 10 years? Yeah.
What happens to the extra 52?
Huh?
What happens to the extra 52? Like, our tuition's $11,000.
Okay, depends on the state. So, like, some states will only pay the tuition. We just raise our tuition. Now, this would not cover collegiate, I don't think. So you'd have to come up with some extra money.
So would you just basically say, hey, you pick a school and we'll cover that school's tuition?
Yep.
It'd just be covered for the 1 year or?
4 years, or the remainder of your school. And you drop this down to elementary schools as well that were failing. Now, you run into some issues. Here's a big one. You shut down South High. Say they have 100 faculty. What happens to those teachers? They lose their jobs. Teachers' unions hate this. Okay? Now, are other schools going to be needing new teachers? Okay? So, hopefully you're going to hire the best teachers out of South High for your school. Because the better your school is, the more $16,000 checks you get. You're creating competition between schools for students. So the more you improve your school, the more students you get. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's based on your scores. You're either failing or you're not. You know what I mean?
But like if all the students transfer over to another school.
It could affect the scores. Yep. Hopefully the ones that are there will keep it afloat. You may have to make some adjustments. Now, would you guys want 200 kids from South High showing up at your door here? They got to go to Mass. They got to take the religion classes. Kinsey, what does Jesus tell us to do? Share the good news. Share the gospel, right? What better way, bring 200 heathens in here and share Jesus with them? That's mean. You start in elementary school?
It depends. It depends on the household.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a choice. You're choosing to come here. That's what my buddy said. My buddy said, Charlie, I'm against this. I don't want those kids in my kid's classroom. Like, you're a heartless son of a gun, man. Come on.
Where'd you use?
No.
Both kind of like one or two.
So universal, guys, in Kansas would be expensive, okay? But what I'm talking about here, guys, are inner city schools that are failing. Getting those kids out of a bad environment into a good environment. If you take elementary kids and you put, what do we do right in the Catholic schools? What do we do right that works? Right now, you're all wearing uniforms. I can't tell by looking at you whether you got money or you don't. I have no freaking idea. Now, there's a couple families you kind of know. But other than that, I got no idea. You know what I mean? And either does anybody else unless you're telling them. Girls aren't coming in here with all kinds of cleavage show. And it's short skirts, and tattoos, and piercings on the face, distractions to education. And guys, if you screw up in this class, you get a demerit. You screw up in the school, you get enough demerits, they put you in detention. You screw up enough, they kick you out. Screw up at Heights, they send you to South. Screw up at West, they send you to South. Screw up at Southeast, they send you to South. You're a bad teacher at Heights, and the principal's like, we got to get rid of this teacher. Send them to South. You can't fire them. You know how hard it is to fire a public school teacher in this country? They have union protection. It's expensive to fire somebody that works for the government. So if you're looking for job security, you know where to go. Now, there's some great teachers at South. I know two of the teachers in the English department down there. One used to teach here. She was a great teacher. She just had to make more money. I know the department chair down there. She's a great lady. They got some good teachers in every school, and then there's bad teachers in every school. You know that. I know that because my kids went here. I don't know if you like this idea or not. Here's the thing, guys, 2024, Kansas is going to open enrollment. Means you no longer have to go to school in the district you live. So if you live in the Goddard School District, you can apply to go to school in Mays. Now, Mays only has so many chairs, seats. Once they fill up, they fill up. The whole state's going to open enrollment. Now, Derby and Campus right now have open enrollment. So does East High for the IB program. Okay? So if you're really interested in football and you want to play for Coach Clark at Derby, you can live in Andover and go to Derby right now. The whole state's going to be like that. Yeah. Oh, I know. So I think that's a good thing for students that are stuck in bad schools. And usually it's the environment. So if you talk about Washington, D.C., our nation's capital is one of the worst school systems in the country. You think Joe Biden or Bill Clinton or George Bush or Jimmy Carter would send their kids to public schools in Washington, D.C.? Hell no. Well, then what about the kids that have to go to those schools? They don't have a choice that their mommy and daddy aren't in Congress or work for the State Department. They don't have a choice. The kids don't have a choice. We're going to make them stay in those schools. How about we give them vouchers so they can go to the little kids? I'm talking about first graders. Get them into the Catholic schools with a scholarship, a voucher. You'll change the country. That uneducated and people that don't believe in God. You don't believe in God? You have no morality? What's that a recipe for? Crime. It's rampant all over this freaking country. We got to fix our schools, guys. We got to fix our schools. I don't know if this is the answer or not, but I know if I was poor and I lived in Washington, D.C., and I had an opportunity to send my kid to a Catholic school, even though I'm not Catholic, and I can get them out of that school where all the violence that follows them from the neighborhood into the school follows them right into the school door. And I had an opportunity to get my kid out of that. Tell me I wouldn't take that? Yeah. Well, if you went universal, yeah, it's a choice. So it's going to be up to the parent. So if you care about education of your child, you're going to make the sacrifices. The bus isn't going to take you from Andover to Derby. You're going to have to take your kid down. You're going to have to find a way. It's called making a sacrifice for the basis of education. It's a choice. You can go to the neighborhood school. You can walk to it. But if that school is not providing what I want for my child, I'm going to have a choice. I don't know. I see your point. Teachers hate it. Okay? But teachers' unions aren't worried about kids. Teachers' unions worry about teachers. That's why I'll never join. I don't know. It's an interesting idea. Several states are doing it. Florida's doing it. Arizona just adopted this. Other states are looking at it. I think the open enrollment will help some kids in the state. Will it cause new problems? Yes. Especially with athletics. It's going to be interesting. And we'll probably go to 6A next year.
Have fun.
It'll be fine. 6A doesn't want us. When the schools voted for a multiplier for private schools, 6A almost exclusively voted no. Because they know Aquinas, St. James, Carroll, here we come. They're like, really? Can we just keep them down at 5A?
They don't wanna give.
We'll be fine. It'll be easier in a lot of sports to get to state. Now, basketball is different.
Based off like your enrollment?
Yeah,
Okay, so you think.
So they're gonna
with the
put-
open enrollment next year, it's gonna make ours go up?
no,
Okay, so then why should we go up in school?
because we win too much. Because we're private schools and we draw from a large area.
Okay, like public schools don't draw from large area too.
Public schools recruit a heck of a lot more than we do.
Oh, 100%.
All right, so,
Are you gonna have
You guys can win
scouts
next
once they do open enrollment?
I can't get them in. We don't have open enrollment. You gotta pay tuition here, unless you're part of the church. We're not gonna be getting more kids because of this. Certain schools are, but not private schools. They're not, you can't take this to the private school. You can't just switch around to the private school. Not under open enrollment in Kansas. All right, hey, Medicare for all. Questions? Extremely expensive. $36 trillion over 10 years. However, you would no longer have to pay for insurance. So think of the money that you're paying for insurance would go in taxes. You're just switching it. You're switching from insurance to taxes, those that pay taxes. About 48% of the American people do not pay any federal income tax. They don't make enough. So this is going to be half the country switching from private insurance and the premiums they pay for insurance to taxes to pay for everybody to health care access. The good part of it is everybody gets access. The bad part of it is everybody gets access. And when you go for an MRI, instead of waiting a week or 2 weeks, you're waiting 6 months, which you may have to do in Canada. There are more MRI machines in the state of Kansas than there are in all of Canada that uses a national healthcare system. In the United States, guys, you make enough money, you can buy an MRI machine, set up a place on North Rock Roads called MRIs Are Us. Hand out your business card to all the doctors, say any of your patients need an MRI, send them our way. Hire a tech. You can do that in this country. In Canada, you can't do that. Everything's controlled by the government. So if they want more MRI machines, they order more. If they don't have the money to do it, they don't. And guess what? Our government is out of money. We're in debt. So eventually you're going to run out of money for health care, which means you're going to have to ration care, which means you get an operation, you don't. That happens today under insurance in some cases as well. Stop recording.